Hello, my name is Greg Massi, and this is episode number 33 of The Color of Air, a podcast about the musical journey. See if I can remember this. You can find us on the web at www.colorofair.com. You can find us at facebook.com/colorofairpodcast, on Twitter at The Color of Air. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything you want to talk to me about, you can email me at colorofairpodcast@gmail.com. So it's been, the last episode was in August. It's been a few months, obviously, more than a few months. And this is kind of a palate cleansing episode, something to, there's no guest, just me. Hopefully it'll not be too long and you'll be bored or anything, but it's going to be kind of a, what's the best way to describe it? Kind of a reset to get us ready for the next round of episodes and to basically catch you up on what's been going on in my life, because 2015 was probably the busiest year I've had musically in quite some time. On paper, it maybe wouldn't look like that because the gigs were kind of few and far between. But just in terms of preparation and all the other stuff that goes into it, it was incredibly busy and stressful. And by the time I was done with a lot of the commitments I had to do, which was probably in the middle of November, I just wanted nothing more than to just take the rest of the year off, and I did. And then, things happen, work, personal life. My wife and I adopted a dog in January, so that's kind of been taking up a lot of my time as well. So now it's been kind of, okay, we're through the winter, done hibernating. Let's get ready to do this again. So without further ado, this is my long overdue New York recap episode. Like I said, I was very busy musically with a lot of things last year, but I know the one thing people are kind of itching for me to talk about is my experience in New York in August. I went down there for about 10 days and helped out with Toby Driver, for those of you who don't know. Toby Driver's residency at the Stone, where he kind of did a bunch of shows to highlight various aspects of what he's done over the last 15 years. And so I was privileged to take part in a night where we reunited most of Maudlin of the Well and did a couple sets playing some Maudlin of the Well songs that we haven't played in, 2002 was the last gig we did. So 13 years. And I also had the privilege of playing with Ko to do a set devoted to Choirs of the Eye, which was one of the albums I played on with Ko. And as well, I got to do an interesting set with Toby and Nick Hudson, who was also on this podcast previously. And we kind of just, I'll get into it more, but, we kind of threw together a set fairly quickly and, went from there. So, in terms of the Maudlin of the Well set, it was stressful in the sense that, I had been having a lot of recurring nightmares about it since well before Toby even asked me to do it. Because it's a recurring nightmare I have where I'm on stage either with Ko or the Maudlin of the Well, and I've rejoined them, and we're going to play a bunch of tunes that we haven't played in a while, and it's going to be a big crowd, and we go out there, and I haven't practiced my parts, and I have no idea what to play, and it's this kind of feeling of dread. And so needless to say, when I got asked to do the Maudlin of the Well and the Ko gigs, that recurring dream happened a lot more often. And it was important to me to do a good job. And so, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So it was an an interesting time. We kind of started rehearsing for it. The whole band wasn't really going to get a chance to rehearse until August, right before the gigs happened. So there's a lot of prep work involved early in the year. I took a couple trips down to New York over the summer on my own to practice stuff with Toby, to for questions I had on the different tunes that we did. And then there was, of course, finding gear, because, trying to make sure you put forth the best possible performance. You want to have something reliable. So, I spent a lot of time over the summer putting together my new pedal board to help bring out, the best expression of the parts that I was going to be playing. So, for those of you who don't know, we played pretty much. We did 2 sets that were both about an hour each, or 45 minutes maybe, and we pulled from each of the albums, and we played songs we had never done before. One notable one being "The Ocean, the Kingdom, and the Temptation" from My Fruit Psycho Bells, as well as we did do some stuff from Part the Second, which was just really a studio only project, and so getting the material together was really cool. Getting the set list together, organizing them. For those of you who don't know, Maudlin, KO Dot, all the guitar parts are in various different guitar tunings, which as a guitar player is really, really tough, because you don't want to have too many guitars on stage. The more equipment you have, the more chance something's going to mess up. So, we really tried to organize the sets into such a way that would, minimize tuning changes. And so really I was able to get away with 2 guitars for each set, which was really, really good. And it made it very, very easy for me. In terms of the other gear, I had switched to, this is only for the gear nerds, obviously. I went from playing a Mesa Boogie triple rectifier half stack I switched to a Fender Hot Rod DeVille 410, which is a combo amp, which for those of you who don't know, just means it's a little bit smaller and it's all self-contained in one unit. So it was, it was able to, I was able to, save some space that way in traveling and in setting up, and also it gave me a little more control, because I think I prefer the sound of the Fender, the clean sound of the Fender to the clean sound of the Mesa. So I was able to streamline it so that I had a decent clean sound to begin with, and then I was able to control all the other stuff through my pedals. And so it was finding the right pedals to do the ambient parts, because Maudlin songs had delay and reverb on a bunch of different guitar parts throughout the songs. So there was a lot of time and effort that went into that, so yeah, we had a couple rehearsal sessions over the summer. They were pretty easy, but I know most people want me to get to the actual gigs. So the idea was, I drove down the Friday before the gigs, and or the Thursday actually, I think I left, and we just kind of went right into rehearsals. And because of the nature of what Toby was doing that week, I mean, it wasn't just Maudlin Noel, obviously. He had 10 or 12 shows that different sets he was working on for that week. So he had a very detailed rehearsal schedule. And, our rehearsals were done out of the KO rehearsal space, which was in I guess it's an old Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company. They had space in this big industrial building, which they converted into rehearsal spaces. And so, as much as I'm going to probably talk about how exhausting and grueling these rehearsals were for me, the fact of the matter was I was only there part of the day. Toby was there probably 12 hours a day rehearsing prior to it. So as much as you hear me kind of talk about stress and exhaustion and all those other things, Toby probably felt it a lot more than I did. So, take my complaining with a grain of salt, really. But, or I shouldn't say complaining, but my experience was unique to me, and I'm sure some people had it worse than I did at that. But yes, we only had a few days to kind of get these sets together because the Maudlin gigs happened on a Monday or a Tuesday, I'm sorry. And so yeah, I don't have the rehearsal schedule in front of me, but I think we were doing up to 10 hours a day rehearsing with just the Maudlin stuff. Breaking for lunch and everything like that. But it was really grueling, because a lot of it was, learning songs that we had never played before, getting back used to playing with each other. We had Sam back doing the drums, Josh was back doing guitars, Taryn doing keyboards and woodwinds and things like that. We had Ron from Ko sitting in on bass, and Mia on violin, and so it was, it was a beautifully chaotic experience. I guess is the best way to describe it. Because this building, we would show up at 10 o'clock in the morning. There was no real good air conditioning in the place, so we were sweating like crazy. I think I took a picture of myself with Taryn, probably on Saturday or Sunday after, 9 hours of rehearsing. And I looked like I had already dropped about 10 pounds just sweating off weight because, I really wasn't eating a whole ton and sweating and drinking water all day. And, but it's, these are the kind of experiences you go through as a musician that, they seem pretty tough at the time. And, the way I'm describing them, you might be going, oh, what the fuck? I would never want to do that. But, it was kind of a cool bonding experience too, because, even when we weren't rehearsing with Maudlin, I was staying at Toby's house, again, with no air conditioning. So, I was pretty much just sweating the entire day for maybe 3-4 days straight. But, because Toby was always off rehearsing other bands besides just the Maudlin and the Ko sets, I had a lot of time to hang out with Josh because he was staying with Toby as well. And, we had some good times, hanging out, relaxing. I was driving throughout Brooklyn all the time, dropping people off at rehearsal, going to, do other things. And, and so Josh and I had this kind of rule in the car because he was kind of always in the passenger seat for most of it, which was, when we're not at Maudlin of the Well rehearsal, we're only going to listen to straightforward classic rock. And so pretty much all we would listen to is Dio era Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, just just to kind of, cleanse the palate because, when you're playing in the alternate tunings and the odd time signatures and you're trying to get things just right, it can be a little grueling on the brain. And so the last thing you want to do is, listen to, progressive rock or something like that. So we kind of, we're like 4/4 classic rock. That's what we're going to listen to. So that was a really cool bonding experience. And I think it was the Sunday, Nick Hudson came by. He flew over from England. And so that was really cool too, because he was also staying with Toby, and it was cool to hang out with him in person for the first time. I mean, I feel like I was kind of a basket case by the time he showed up. So, I mean, I don't know how much fun I was to be around, but I enjoyed hanging out with him, and it was cool to talk with him in person. And like I said, which I'll get into later, we were prepping songs for a gig, and so it was kind of hard for me to focus on the gig with him and Toby later in the week because my brain was so focused on I don't want to fuck up the Maudlin and the Well sets. I don't want to fuck those up. The Ko sets I wasn't as nervous about, which I know sounds kind of strange because some people might think the Ko stuff's a little more intricate than the Maudlin stuff, and it is. But with the KOS stuff, I had the experience of touring with that for 3-4 years. And so, it was a matter of, relearning the parts, but, the muscle memory kind of kicks in after a while, and it kind of comes back to you pretty easily. So, and then the other thing about the maudlin stuff that I think was stressing me out was that due to the way we were playing it and the way we had everything organized, I was going to have to play parts that I had never used to do. So I really had to do a lot of these clean intros. And for example, I'll reference, Stones of October Sobbing starts with a guitar part. And then the clarinets come in. Toby was going to be playing clarinet, so he couldn't play the guitar part, so I had to learn that part. I had never played it. And then the other big one, of course, is Laboratories of the Invisible World off of part the second. That has a really intricate clean guitar part at the beginning, and you have to play it right because the guitar parts, the vocals that lead into that first verse, kind of cue off of it. So, when I'm playing a part underneath other guitar parts, I want to play it right. But if there's other guitars playing, sometimes you have a little bit more leniency to, if you can find a way to simplify a part or play it differently to kind of help blend yourself better, and to kind of ease it up, make it easier for yourself. But with these parts, I couldn't mess those up. They were just me, and these are songs that people love and had been waiting 10 years to see played live. So that extra pressure made me very, very stressed. But, I practiced, and I felt that, when I listened back, I don't have the audio from all the shows. I just have the video that's available on Vimeo. I'll try to get the link and put it in the web in the notes for this episode. But all the shows that week were videotaped by this wonderful guy named Eric, and of the two Maudlin of the Well shows, we picked certain ones that because we were dealing with some technical problems in terms of recording. A couple, I think one of the cameras went out, or one of the microphones went out recording wise. So you don't get all of the songs we did on those two sets, but you get a good mix of the songs, and I was pretty happy that they picked Laboratories of the Invisible World, and they picked Stones of October Sobbing, and I was able to look back and watch my performance and be pretty happy that I felt like I did the parts justice. Hopefully everybody else thought that too, but I was really, really happy that kind of came out the way it did. So yeah, it was, like I said, grueling rehearsal. It was, I think by the time we actually got to the Maudlin, the day that we did the Maudlin sets, I mean, we were, packing up all of our stuff at the rehearsal space, and, it was a hot day. And, we got word that there were people waiting to get in as early as, I think, 2:00 in the afternoon for a 8:00 show, which is, boggles my mind. And, but, there were people who were coming from, pretty far distances to come see these shows. And I think I mentioned in the podcast last year when I was talking about it that the Stone, the venue where we held them, it doesn't really hold that many people. I think maybe it was like 65, 70 people that could be accommodated and also have the band play. So, it's a very, very intimate gig. And I know when I got there, I was blown away by the, people waiting in line. And then, setting up for the gigs was all, I tried to kind of stay out of the way because I felt Toby had a really good sense, because he knows the room better than anybody. So he had a good sense of where he wanted everything to be and everything to be plugged in and everyone to stand and everything like that. So I just kind of took a back seat and let him, take over. And, so we got everything set up. We did our sound check. And then I know that as soon as we were done sound checking and we were down in the kind of the basement green room section of it, I was frankly stressing out. I was on the verge of a panic attack, just being, because you see a lot of people waiting to see you, and you have people coming from all over the place. We had people from Italy, people from Poland, people from Norway, I believe. If I'm forgetting anybody, and not to mention other states. People from Missouri and people from, I think, probably from California, and it was it was very, very. It's something I had never really experienced because I'm not used to people being into seeing what I'm doing. I'm used to setting up a show and having a handful of people show up, and some people aren't paying attention. And then you get a couple and you just hope everything goes well. But this is kind of like, okay, you are the main attraction, not me personally, but the whole band. And while you are a very small part of this whole experience, you're it's not all on you. It's there's 8 people, 9 people involved with this, 10 people I think when we had other guests on it. So yeah, it's not all on my shoulders, but there is that thing where it's like, okay, well, if I mess up this one part and screw up somebody else, I don't want to ruin this whole thing for everybody. So it took a little bit of time to calm down. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I took a couple swigs of Jägermeister, because it was the only alcohol in the whole place, to kind of dull the nerves a little bit, but not to get drunk, because that would be the worst thing possible for doing Maudlin the Well material. But anyway, so we got up there, we did the 8:00 show, and I have to say, once I actually got out there, it was a really kind of a cool, magical vibe in that place. And it was nice because I had friends in the front row. Dan and Lloyd had gotten there early and gotten right into the front row. So and there's other people I knew there. People from the New York scene, and so it really felt like this cool, welcoming vibe, and everybody was really chill. Everybody was really relaxed. Everybody paid attention, and and the sets went as good as I think they could have gone. I'm sure there was a couple mess ups. I know there was a couple mess ups I did. A couple miscues and things like that. But overall, the experience was really wonderful. It was kind of a validation of, even though I didn't write these songs, it's still kind of a cool validation that this thing we were part of 10 years ago, 15 years ago at that point, obviously people always email me and, talk about how much they enjoy Maudlin the Well, but, humble brag, but they do, I get emails from people, I shouldn't say all the time, it's very rare now, but, I've gotten emails from people saying, how much they enjoy the music and, wish they had gotten a chance to see us live. And, it was a very cool experience. That's the best way I can describe it. It just, it felt really good. And, it definitely validated myself as a musician and my abilities as a musician to do that. And I still have those recurring nightmares, still to this day. So maybe that's a sign that more Maudlin the Well reunion shows have to happen. Don't take that as fact, because as of right now, we haven't planned any. Toby's got plenty of stuff on his plate with the new KO record coming out soon and everything. But anyway, that was my brief, recap of the Maudlin the Well shows. I mean, it was good to see everybody and hang out with everybody. I mean, we had a lot of great times. We went out, it was really fun, sitting around a dinner table with Sam and Taryn and Josh and Toby and Byron, and just, just because, the bond with those guys never left. Even though the band broke up and people went their separate ways and they live all over the country now, but these guys are brothers to me, and sisters in the case of Mia, and so it was really, really cool to be around them again, and kind of live through this experience. The long, grueling rehearsal days, the lack of air conditioning, everything. It was just. It was a really, 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 really mind-blowing experience for me, which I will never forget. And so yeah, and then we had, obviously I won't have as much to say about the KO gig because, like I said, I wasn't as nervous about that one. And by the time the Maudlin gigs were done, I think a lot of my nerves were kind of eased. So doing the KO one was just more like, okay, well, let's just get it done as good as you can. And I really enjoyed, again, playing with those guys again, and it was awesome. And but I did want to give a little bit of a time to the fourth gig I did, which was like I said, me, Nick, and Toby. At times it kind of almost felt like an afterthought, at least for me and Toby, because we were so focused on the Maudlin stuff. And so to that end, I really have to thank Nick Hudson, because it was going to be his one performance of this entire week. So he really, put in the time to practice and contribute ideas and get things, suggestions and whatever. And, and so with the limited rehearsal time we had, the limited time we have to discuss what we were going to play, we really put together, a fun little set. And, not everything went super smoothly. I know I got lost playing a couple tracks because I was going off sheet music, and I'm not a great sheet music reader. so that unfortunately, hampered a couple tunes. But overall, we played a mix of things. We played a couple of tunes of Nick's. We played a couple of tunes of Toby's. We played the song Birds by Asva, because originally Stuart Dahlquist was going to come out and play with us. Unfortunately, due to personal issues at home, he wasn't able to make it at the last minute. But we decided to do that as tribute to him because, we all love Stuart and we love his music. So it seemed like a good thing to do anyway. And so we played that. And what I was really proud of there, the other validation I got during this week, was that I was able to actually contribute 2 songs that I wrote. And, my take as a songwriter is that I've always been in bands with strong songwriters, obviously. Toby in Maudlin, Llewellyn, KO. And so when I originally struck out on my own to do Battle Set, I felt like that I really was not advanced as a songwriter. I was still felt like a newbie. So, I've been writing now for many years and trying to get better. And what was really validating for me is that, when I was in Maudlin Llewellyn and KO, I would never for the life of me think to bring a song to the group, because it just, in my mind, if you heard a Maudlin Llewellyn or a KO album, it was pretty much Toby. And so I felt like if I brought a tune to the table, it would just kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And, it's always been my opinion that you go with whoever's contributing the strongest ideas. And that was Toby. And you never want to put yourself in the thing where you're putting something on an album just to appease somebody. You always want to put something on there that really reflects and is, cohesive with the other stuff. And I never felt like as a songwriter I could contribute anything to the level of what Toby and also Taryn had contributed to. I never thought I could contribute anything to that level. My guitar solo is fine, but my songs, no. So going into it, all I really expected, or I really hoped for, was maybe that I would be able to come up with one song that, that we could do, so that I could feel like, okay, I've actually contributed something creatively to this. And we ended up doing 2 songs of mine. One song that I wrote with Byron. He did the lyrics for me. And it was kind of just like a somber acoustic number. And also, I wrote this acoustic song a while ago that never really had lyrics to it. And I always thought maybe the guitar line was a little too complicated to have lyrics to. So I always thought it would be an instrumental. But, I changed it around a little bit. I added some parts and sent it to Nick. And Nick wrote these really amazing lyrics and a vocal line to it within, like a day. And we had a song. And so to be able to say I contributed 2 songs to this was just, again, it's validation. It's validation that that I had created something that could stand with, or not stand, but that could be, that the 2 songwriters I really look up to, Nick and Toby, would say, okay, yeah, let's do that. That's incredibly validating from a respect, as a respect perspective. So doing that set was, again, I messed up on a couple things. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I'm not a flawless musician, never have been. But just the fact that I contributed, and I felt like part of this interesting collective that was putting on this show. So yeah, so it was really cool. It was a really cool, interesting vibe. And so yeah, that was my last show for that week. I stuck around for a few more days to watch a couple of the other shows, and then drove myself home to sleep for hopefully days and days and days. And yeah, so that I hope that maybe some people had said I should talk about the New York experience. So to sum it up, it was a crazy, sweaty, stress, anxiety, magical, validating kind of week for me. It definitely changed me, and for the better, and made me take stock of who I was as a musician, or who I am as a musician. Actually, I should say who I was, because I was going back and relearning stuff I hadn't played, and guitar solos that I wrote 15 years ago. So it made me kind of look at who I was as a musician, where I've been as a musician, and where I'm going. And that's I don't know. I'm trying to find the best way to describe it, but you could take your philosophical existentialism and apply whatever, theories or tenets, would apply to that. But that was my experience with New York. It was just a earth-shattering experience. So yeah, but as they say, there's no rest for the wicked. And it was kind of funny, because as soon as I got home from New York, I was full on into rehearsals for the Halloween shows at Ralph's. I stupidly signed up for 3 bands, and take stupidly with a grain of salt, because each of those 3 bands was amazing. Everybody involved with them was amazing. I did a Danzig set where I played bass, with Pam Garnett singing, Scott Green on guitar, and Jeff. I actually don't know Jeff's last name, because he's known as Mountain Jeff on Facebook. But Jeff from Set on drums, and I'd never played bass live, so that was just amazing. And Danzig's tunes are so simple and so fun. And then I did a Painkiller tribute, a Judas Priest Painkiller tribute, with Krista and Maureen from Second Grave on vocals and bass, with Mike Larange from Dumpster Fire on second guitar, and with Dan Blomquist from Conclave on drums. And again, super amazing people. I had never really, as much as I love the Painkiller album, I had never listened to or never tried to learn Painkiller songs, aside from maybe a couple riffs here and there. So to actually get in deep with that was a lot of fun. And then I did a Dio tribute with Hillary Jason on vocals, Chris Farmeri, who does Metal Thursdays, on bass, and Adam from Balaset on drums. And, we kind of did a tribute to all eras of Dio stuff, his Black Sabbath stuff, his solo stuff, and his Rainbow stuff. And so, so there you have it, 3 rehearsals, almost like 3 rehearsals a week for however many weeks, from the end of August through the end of October. Not to mention Concilium was getting into full swing with, we had a couple gigs booked opening up for Castle from San Francisco, and in November. So, we were also doing Concilium rehearsals, and it was just a crazy time. And by the time the Halloween shows were done, it was like, but I couldn't relax because I had to get ready for the Castle shows. And then, then that happened, and then I was able to finally, relax. And since then, I've pretty much just been taking it easy. There's another Concilium gig we did, opening up for 8 Bells. Also, the Painkiller group did another show. Kind of did our set again. I got to debut the Frankenstrat I made, which I call the Alley Viper, because the color scheme is influenced by a G.I. Joe character that I had when I was a kid. And so yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Is that we got Concilium practice. We've had some shakeups in the lineup, but we're working on new material with Concilium. I actually just finally sat down with a lot of the rough mixes from the Balaset records that I've been working on for years, and also I started putting together demos that I had recorded off and on over the last 3 years, and I realized I have about almost 3 to 4 albums worth of material just kind of sitting here. So organizing that and being like, okay, well, this is stuff I have, and now it's time to get it done. And so that's kind of just been my motto for this year, is just get to work, get it done. And hopefully I'll have more updates on that in the near future. So that's where I'm at. That's what's been going on. And obviously the podcast took a back seat to all that. And but we're back. So this is episode 33. I've recorded the time I'm recording this episode, I've recorded 2 interviews. So those will be coming out on the Thursdays as normal. This one's probably going to hit on Sunday night. So stay tuned. Subscribe, tell a friend. If you're new to the podcast, go back, listen to the old episodes. We're going to have some people on who've been on it before, some new people, and hopefully the other requests I've put out kind of pan out soon, and I'll have a better idea who's going to be on in the near future. But thank you for listening. Thank you for indulging me if you've made it this far, and kind of just talking about myself for 40 minutes or however long I've been talking. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All right.
We are bound together forever by current of electricity. I am a memory burnt on